an F-bomb is not something we usually get from a president, but maybe it speaks to the difficult negotiations and how long this process has been going on. But what jumped out for you in that press conference and meeting with President Zelensky of Ukraine?
Well, a couple of things stood out. One is his vision for this meeting that he plans to have with Vladimir Putin at some point in the near future. We don't have a date for it, but he does not see the two warring leaders, Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, actually sitting down together. It would be, as you had noted at the top, a pair of bilateral meetings that Trump would orchestrate and perhaps set the two men closer on a path toward peace. It really does seem that this session today is more to lay the groundwork than anything else. And there does seem to be a bit of deal-making to happen between the U.S. and Ukraine in these discussions as well. Volodymyr Zelensky came prepared to talk about what his country could offer the U.S. in terms of drone production and technology. This is an area where they have innovated, really necessity being the mother of invention. They've really made advances in drone production and technology to be able to counter Russia since the invasion in 2022. And one of the things that he would be looking to get in return would be some more capability and permission from the U.S. to strike deeper into Russia using U.S. weapons. And those possibly could include those Tomahawk missiles. Trump was non-committal on that. And that was another thing that stood out. So these are open questions that the two leaders will be discussing now, now that they've chased the press out on that resounding note of the F-bomb, but we'll have to see what comes further from this meeting and whether it will last as long as the Putin call of 2 hours yesterday.
And Mike, how productive can this meeting be in your view, given, as you mentioned, maybe it's just simply to lay the groundwork and get a sense of what Ukraine can do for the U.S.?
Well, it really depends on how the two leaders continue to get along. And we saw that at the beginning of the year, in late February, their first get-togethers after Trump returned to office ended quite badly. And it really set relations between the U.S. and Ukraine on a bit of a tailspin. And it raised questions about whether Trump might walk away altogether from the Ukrainian side and seek to somehow force them into Russia's arms to reach a peace deal that they might not want. But Ukraine and President Zelensky have really taken pains to try to meet Trump more than halfway, to meet him where he is. And you saw the president complimenting the Ukrainian leader on his suit, something that came up during that first meeting in February.
Right.
And so it does seem that they are reaching some sort of understanding, and that'll be critical, Bailey, to trying to get something actually done. This interpersonal deal-making and diplomacy is Trump's hallmark, and Zelensky recognizes that.
I felt like that stood out real in a big way, right? Complimenting him on the suit, and it's like Zelensky kind of got the message too, okay, this is how we play ball. Having said that, just last question, Mike, these things can change. We've seen the relationship, certainly when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, go back and forth here.
It is hot and cold, and you really don't know what you're going to get almost from day to day and week to week. And it also is a common strand in the China relationship with the U.S. as well. A week ago today, Carol, we were talking about, well, is this meeting between Trump and Xi even going to happen? And what about these 100% tariffs he's threatening? And now he is saying that, look, earlier today in an interview on Fox Business, he's saying, look, I recognize the non-viability of imposing such heavy tariffs and holding out the prospect of actually following through in this meeting. So you never know what you're going to get. And it will really also depend on Vladimir Putin and whether he truly will take some steps toward reaching the bargaining table with Zelensky at some point. Since the Alaska meeting, Trump has been frustrated that Putin has not shown more or done more to achieve progress in this area. And that's prompted some harsh rhetoric from the U.S. president in this regard toward Putin and toward Russia. So we'll have to see what the fruits of today are and what happens in Hungary if that meeting comes off.